What's up, everyone? My name is Julius Cordero, and you're watching Blasted. I was born in the Women and Children's General Hospital in East LA, right here off the 5 freeway, and that's where I was born. But I was like great. I grew up a little bit everywhere. I grew up in Linwood till about 8 years old, and then I moved to East Los Angeles, and I've been there for a cool minute now. That's where I was like mainly raised, right there, East Los Angeles. But Linwood and Southgate, I lived there for a little bit. I went to Garfield High School in East Los Angeles. That's where I went to high school at, and then I went to middle school right there too. Just that same basic area, East Los Angeles, by like the East Los Angeles Community College. Damn, bro, I was a little bit everywhere, dog. I didn't really have like, I don't know. I was like a rocker at one point. I was just wearing whatever the fuck at one point. I tried to like, wear the Jordans at one point too. I was a little bit everywhere. I really didn't have like an identity like that. I think I was just trying to fit in, honestly. But I think towards like when I was in a senior, I started being more to that punk scene, so I was tagging a lot with my friends and got really into art then. But I've always been drawing since I was a kid, but yeah, that's the kind of person I was in high school. I really didn't know who the fuck I was, and I'm sure a lot of kids, or even adults now, didn't know who the fuck they were in high school. I do remember drawing a lot when I was a kid, and I don't know how that started. Maybe, I think the earliest memory I have is my dad teaching me how to draw Spider-Man, and he showed me step by step, like really simple shapes, like an oval, and then other shapes for his eyes and stuff. That's like the earliest memory I have of like learning something pertaining to like art, or drawing. But after that, I don't know, I kind of just kept at it, especially with the whole graffiti scene in Los Angeles. And, spray paints and tagging and just all these crews that were in high school and stuff. That kind of kept me involved in it too. And then also too, just like the black and gray, like cholo kind of like art, the drawing with the pen and that kind of prison kind of stilo, it's always been around me right there. It's very like dominant in that kind of like community, I feel. And but yeah, that's my earliest memory. And I don't know how I got into it. I really don't know. I don't know if it's just, I really have no fucking idea how I got into it. But thank goodness I stuck to it, at least the drawing. And I never even thought of like what I would do with my life or if art could be a part of life. I would just draw as a kid. But I remember one day eventually, the way I got into tattooing is my homie he got locked up. He went to like juvie. We were like 16. And when he came out, they showed him how to make like homemade tattoo machines, with like CD motors, big pins and shit like that. So when he came out, he showed me how to do that, and so we were making right there, we were like making homemade tattoo machines and shit. And we would tattoo each other and stuff. And then eventually maybe like a year passed by or something like that. And I remember he came up on like this like fucking came up on this like a starter kit that they sold in like like raunchy shops and shit, swap meets and shit like that. So he came up on one, and I remember I had an iPod with me, and I don't know why I asked him, but I told him I'd trade him for that kit, and with that I just started tattooing, but not every day. It would be like every now and then, and it would only be like my homies, like I wasn't like trying to throw it out there like to get paid for it or anything like that, so that was like my introduction to tattoos. This was during high school, so I was like 16. I was like 16 or 17. Damn, dog, it took so long for me to educate myself, I feel, just because, like, nobody around me that I knew, was tattooing, And I'm an introvert, too, right? So, like, I definitely didn't talk to a lot of people or know any artists like that. Especially at that time, right, at 16, like, who's kind of, like, tattooing, like, professionally, right? Unless, like, someone has, like, an apprenticeship, which back then wasn't even heard of too much, too, right? Just because, like, we didn't have YouTube like that, right? Or we didn't know about, like, processes of how to get to a certain place or how to go about doing something, So I just didn't even know about apprenticeships. I didn't know anything about that. I think it took me so long just because, again, right, I was an introvert. And so I would, like, tattoo by myself a lot. And I would try to read whatever magazines I could, or I would really try to think to myself, like, why does, like, someone's work look so different than someone else's, right? Or like, why is someone's work way better than mine? Like, what is it that's happening that's different, And right here I'm like 16 again. I'm like 16, so it's like early 2000s, early 2000s. There's only like not too many videos, you have tattoo magazines, and so eventually the way I decided to educate myself was I would read a lot. My sister put me on to a lot of books, right? And I would read books like The Alchemist and shit like that. Have you ever heard of Paulo Coelho? I would read his books and stuff. So they're very like spiritual, right? About like what are you gonna do with life and shit. And after I read a couple of his books, you know, kind of like, I don't know, I used to have no like ambition, right? But after reading these books, it kind of like made me think like if I put it out there, if I speak it to the universe, you know, like it'll be right. Like, but you have to work for it too, right? Shit isn't easy. I think I just started focusing myself on maybe not working and tattooing. I knew I needed to make a career choice if I was gonna either just work for someone and then try to tattoo. I'm never gonna benefit myself, right? I'm never gonna learn anything, or because I'm gonna be too tired to like put my energy into it, right? Like my um, thought into it. Yeah. So I did it. So I quit. I decided I needed to quit. And I just started focusing on tattooing. And even then, right, even when people do things like that, right, you're still unsure of yourself. Like, you're not sure if that's what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. But again, right, it's something that, like, I guess you have to feel in yourself, right? And I think it comes to everyone at a certain time in their life. It doesn't just come, like, if you think, like, oh, like, I'm getting older and it hasn't happened to me and shit like that. Like, it happens at different ages for everyone, you know? And so, yeah, after that, after I quit my job, I understood that I had to get into a private studio or at least a shop, right? So I could start learning from people. And I went to a couple shops, like regular walk-in shops, and they were fucking assholes there. I don't know why they were so assholes, like such assholes, just because they weren't even like, you know, like the way I tattoo now and the way people tattoo and the way like some of my homies have learned in 2 years how to tattoo, and they're fucking killing it, you know, like. And then those guys back then, you know, like just making me feel like a piece of shit, or like because they were better than everyone, but they weren't. Their tattoos weren't great, you know, and that shit trips me out today, dog. Because there's a lot of like lame shops like that with people who are like very like self-centered, you know. And but anyway, so I'd hit a couple of those shops when I first started, but eventually I ended up getting into this private studio down the street right here in downtown LA. And that was my first official like place where I felt like this is what it's supposed to feel like, right? And maybe not like a fucking walk-in shop where they just care about the money and they're kind of rude like that, right? And so that's when I consider myself tattooing professionally, you know? So I've been tattooing for about 10, 11 years now, but I'd say professionally like 8 years when I first got into a private studio and like started learning from people around me, you know? And that's when I got my first taste of that.
You ever killed anyone? No. You can get touchy-feely.
Touchy-feely?
Emotional, not fun. A lot of fuss. They cry, they plead, they beg, they piss themselves, they call for their mothers. It gets embarrassing. I like to kill them softly. From a distance.
I was like about 20 or 21. I was about 20 or 21 because I've done it all. You know, I used to be like a cook. I'd be in construction. I was a security guard. I'd be a manager. I would do everything, bro. Like I've done everything. And my last job, I was a production assistant. I was in TV. And my homegirl, she was my boss, and she would be like the director's like assistant kind of. So, and I'm a production assistant, so I just help out legitimately anyone who needs help in the whole production. That's what I'm there for. Like I'm just like the rat, you know. Yeah, dog. Yeah. And so you know, I did 2 seasons of that. 2 seasons of that. And yeah, on the third season, you know, I kind of thought to myself like, damn, like, because the money was good, right? So I was able to save some money, and I had to make the decision, because it's very tiring. Like it wasn't like a 9 to 5, right? So it could last sometimes 12 hours and stuff because production is like random. Like they don't have like a set schedule like that.
Unless you're a union.
Unless you're a union or something, yeah, yeah, exactly right. And so yeah, so the second season passed, and then I was like, fuck, am I gonna like continue that, like doing this or not, and I made the decision to not and kind of just focus on like my career. And so in those couple months to come, I would be tattooing at my house. And I hated it too, dog, because you get random ass people coming to your house and shit, and like you don't know. And again too, it was hard for my girl too, dog, just because like I wasn't booked like that. I barely decided to do that full time now, so like nobody saw, like there's just no professionalism going on there, so I need to build all that from scratch. And I kind of fucked up, right? Because I had no one to like learn off of or grow off of, Also, like a lot of people today, like all these foods, like I think they have it fairly easy, and they still bitch a lot, like. But because you have all this help from you have all these like apps and like online lessons you could buy from any artist, and they'll give you a great direction, and I think that's awesome, but I definitely did not have that when I was younger, But so anyway, yeah, my girl would help me out a lot with like the bills and stuff, and it got really hard for us too, dog, just because like that shit is like I said, right, like nothing good comes easy, and like you're not sure if like that's gonna pull through, or like damn, should I go back to working, like it's stressing out your relationship, like, and I think it happens to everyone whether they like to admit it or not, like that shit happens to everyone. And she worked really hard. She had to get 2 jobs and stuff, so I know I wouldn't be here without her. And it's so hard, and she came through. It pulled through, and eventually, I started like making a portfolio of my better work, and I started paying attention to people around me, and on what I needed to do to get better. And I feel like I got better little by little, and what obviously did get better, like at least at that stage too, I needed to get better, right? So like to draw a lot and to tattoo, even if like there were sacrifices, right, where I didn't get paid a lot, I'm okay with that, right? So long as I can get like the time in to like tattoo and practice and kind of show bigger pieces. And I taught all that by myself, right? Again, I had nobody to teach me. Like these fools at that private studio weren't also trying to like, be on my back to like push me. Everyone was kind of on their own accord, and not that they were rude or anything like that. So if I wanted help, they would help me, but we didn't have maybe like such a positive like environment like I try to have here with the team, where like we're all trying to push each other, and like I know we fuck around a lot, and like we seem like dicks, but like we love each other, dog, and like we're having a lot of fun. But we try to push each other too, right? If we see something that like anyone can work on, that I can work on, we'll all try to let each other know, so we can all level up, because there's enough of everything for everyone out there, and nobody needs to be fucking like selfish and shit. And I feel people who get mad for things like that are upset at themselves because they don't want to put the work in, and they feel like they should be praised for easy work, but that's not the case, When I first started tattooing, damn, I don't even remember. Honestly, I wouldn't want to say traditional, but I'm sure it would look that way, just because like, anyone starting off tattooing, especially if you don't have anyone teaching you, you're going to have those heavy ass fucking lines that you're putting in people, And so it's going to look like traditional or bold or some shit. But I definitely wasn't trying to go for traditional. But again, when I first started tattooing, it was just everything. For everything you could throw at me, like I would tattoo my homie's stomach, and it would be lettering, but it'd be fat fucking lines with like a 3-round liner, dude. And like I'd be scarring the shit out of him. Other people would get butterflies. I would try to do like this realistic like worm thing one day, and it looked like traditional, right? So I was just trying to figure it out, So I decided when I was at home that I can't keep tattooing at home, and what is the next step from here, right? And the next step is to get to a legit shop, And I was like, okay, so what's the step to that? What do I need? And then so I decided I knew I needed to get a portfolio going, maybe like round up 10 of my best pieces that I feel are like good, enough for like a portfolio, I guess, or to show. And so I did that, I wanted to go get a portfolio. I printed them out, my favorite 10 tattoos at that time. And then I started hitting up a couple studios that I followed on IG. And there was this one spot right here called Sacred Art right here in downtown. It's literally down the block. And that was my first studio right there. And yeah, I went in there, and the dude was cool. I chopped it up with him. He told me how much it was going to be for rent. And I started that following month, I think. And I was super stoked. That was like my first legit thing that I accomplished like on my own, right? And that's like after reading all those books and shit that I was reading, like to like put your mind into something and you'll be able to do it, right? Because no matter how big or how small, like everything that you want to accomplish has a step to it, And if it's very hard for you to see it, like in your mind or something, maybe write it down and put steps 1 through 20 for now, and be step 1. What's the first step that you need to start achieving that goal? And I felt fucking great, dog. After I left and shit, he said I'd be able to start, and I was just super stoked to be able to be around artists and to see how they function, how they work, what am I doing differently, and what they use and shit like that. It was also a private studio like this, so it was in a building. It was in a building in downtown, and I forgot what fucking floor, like the 6th floor. And so it's a private studio, so it's only by appointment only. So from that get go too, right? I never had like the privilege of a walk-in shop. And I never thought of a walk-in shop again because I don't know. I feel like I just didn't think about things like that. I wish I would have known. I would probably like went to a walk-in shop. It would have been a little easier for me. But I'm glad that private studio route, even if I didn't know I had another choice, because it definitely helped me like weed out clientele, and it also helped me become this kind of like person where like I don't need to rely on walk-ins, like a lot of people that work at walk-in shops. There's a give and take to those kind of shops, right? Because they do percentage usually, like 30-70 and shit like that. And so it's beneficial if like you're starting off, trying to create a name for yourself. You don't even have any clients. Yeah, I fucking for sure would give like 70% and keep 30 or something. Like at least I'm getting some money, right? So it's very beneficial at that kind of way. But then you get used to like kind of doing things like that, like like fast, and you're not really caring about the art, and stuff like that. So I think I would have probably been a different kind of like artist if I kind of like went that direction. I'm glad I didn't, I'm not saying there's anything bad with that either. Like that's totally fine and shit if that's what you're about and stuff like that. But, I feel like in like this kind of like environment where it's already diluted by a lot of artists, I feel like you're kind of like losing, people who really care about it and people who are just trying to rush it, I was at that shop, I think for like a year or two. I was there for like a year or two, and then I ended up leaving. I forgot what the reason was, but I ended up leaving for like a year. And then throughout when I left, I opened up I was tattooing next to one of the homies who cut hair, and I was there for a little bit. And then one of the artists that was at that studio that I was at Sacred Art, he had opened his own studio in that same building, so I came back to that building with him, and I was there for a little bit there too. And then I was there for about like a year or two, and then I got the opportunity to tattoo with this artist over there in Montebello. And that also was another private studio. And I went there, because he did really good portraits and stuff. And so I definitely learned a lot, like, in that year being there with them. But he traveled a lot and stuff, so I definitely didn't get to, like, see him tattoo so much and stuff. And after that, it was, like, during COVID, right? Like, that was about 2020 when I was right here in Montebello. And I don't know. I think that was, like, the busiest year for me. And I ended up saving a good amount of cash like that year, and I was able to open up this studio.
Tourists taking photos that are analyzed by AI, so researchers can help life underwater.
Yeah, well, I never thought of opening a studio like that, right? Like having a team like that. I didn't even think of like what it comes with, right? To make sure they have everything and like to make sure they have a nice environment to work in and shit. Because it's a lot of people, and I want everyone here to feel comfortable tattooing. I want the gallery to be about that, so that people know that like we care about our work and stuff. But before that, right? Like I didn't think of opening a studio with a team like that. What made that happen? Like a thought in my head is that studio that I was at in Montebello. When COVID hit, they had closed everywhere, right? Like they didn't want anyone going out. So as a team, collectively there, we all agreed that we wouldn't be tattooing at that studio, right? So we'd be closing it for the month. And the owners agreed with that. And he said we wouldn't have to pay rent, right? He's like, all right, like don't tattoo here. I don't want you guys tattooing here. We won't pay rent for the month, and then we'll link up again and we'll see what's gonna happen next month, And cool. So that's what happened. And the following month came, and when we got back, the owner there ended up charging us for that month anyway. He charged us $800 each. There were 4 artists there, so he charged us $800 each, $3,200, right, total. And we didn't tattoo there, right? So I was like, what the fuck? Like, why are you charging us? Like at the very least, like maybe like we can talk about it or something. But he straight up charged us all like the same amount of rent, right? Normal rent. And we didn't tattoo there at all that month. None of us did. And I mean, I did, dog, because I'm a fucking hustler, right? So I tattooed at my house, right? So, like, I tattooed at my house and shit, and whatever, I was tattooing at the house. And I hated it, right? Because again, right, I'm bringing like random ass people to the house. I could be tattooing over there, you know. So, but we agreed that we were not going to tattoo there, and I was okay with that, you know. I agreed with that. But I tattooed at my house still. I tattooed at my house. So we got back and he charged us and whatever. We're tattooing and then I don't know. I think like a week passes by or some shit, and some dude knocks and he's like he's trying to give the check right for rent to the owner of the studio, right? The dude that tattoos there, and I was like, he's not here. He's like, all right, we'll just give it to him. I was like, all right, cool. And it was just like open like that. It wasn't in an envelope or anything. You know, he just gives it to me. And I was like, all right, you know, I didn't think much of it, you know, and I saw the rent and it says right there, rent $800. So that studio that he was renting out right there for all four of us was $800 for the whole thing. And I thought that was just such a dick move, like to promise to be like, nobody's gonna tattoo here. I won't charge you guys. And then he still charged all of us $800 each. You get what I'm saying? Like, I thought that was fucked up. I thought it was some shady ass shit, you know? And he was paying $800 for that whole space. And he charged all $800 each after we didn't tattoo there, you know? Because he's like, oh, yeah, the owner charged me for rent here. So that's I was like, damn, dog. Like, you could have been honest, right? Like, and you could have been like, if the owner did charge you, just be like, my bad. And we could have all split like $200 each or something. But not $800 each, right? That's like just straight greedy shit, you know? And I honestly thought like everything, like, I don't know. I'm sure there's people like that out there. Of course there are. But I don't know. I'm not like that, you know? And like, I love to have like a team that trusts me too, you know, and shit like that, right? And I feel like whatever you give to the universe, it's going to give it back to you, you know, like 100-fold, right? If you give like good energy out there, it'll give it back to you. If you're a piece of shit, you know, like you're going to get shit like that happen to you, you know? And so after that, you know, I started thinking to myself, like, fuck no, dog. Like, I deserve better for sure than this, you know, like, because it also didn't have, like, a view. It was, like, all blacked in. So you go in the morning, work all day. When you come out and it's nighttime, like, you know, it feels weird, right? Like, you fucking lost the day or some shit, you know? So, like, I know I deserve better. And, like, for 800 or whatever, and I know I could afford more, like, I deserve better than that, you know? And I'm not going to be around people. And then it just fucks up everything. I feel like it just fucks up the energy, right? Because after getting, like, done like that, you know, like, I wouldn't want a tattoo next to somebody like that, you know? So that's what gave me the idea to get the fuck out of there. And sure enough, I remember when I first started here at this studio, when I first started tattooing, my homegirl Danica, she does like a lot of like ornamental mandala work, you know, like, you know, this kind of stuff. She's in New Orleans now, but she was right there with us, tattooing with us, and then she ended up tattooing with this like well-known artist that worked in this building that we're in. And this was years ago, right? This was like 10 years ago. And I remember her taking a video of the studio, and I remember the marble floors and like the view. And at that time, I think this was the only building that had like patios and shit like that where you can go outside, because these other like luxury buildings weren't built yet. And so I remember like after I saw that, you know, like a week after, I was telling my girl like, I'm gonna open up my own place, you know. And I necessarily didn't think it was gonna be like a big old place like this, like where I wanted a big team. I didn't know what the fuck I was looking for. I just know I can leave there and I want to leave there, you know, and do my own thing. Because I racked up a lot of, I mean, I don't know, nobody had money nobody was spending their money anywhere during COVID, so they had a lot of money, I feel, because that year boomed for me, like, a lot, you know? And, but anyway, so I told my girl, we were just walking around looking at different buildings. I checked out these penthouses over here across the street, and they were kind of whack and small. But I remember this building, right, from years ago when my homegirl came over here from a video that she took. And so I just decided to come and check some rooms out, you know, and I asked if I could see the penthouse, and I also asked for a regular room just so I could see the difference and the price difference. And as soon as I walked into this one, bro, and I saw like the staircase and shit like that, and like the floor, I was like, oh, I'm gonna fucking for sure take this one, you know? And I did, bro. I took it, you know, and it was nerve-wracking, dog, because I had to put a lot of money down to get in here for like, and it was like most of my savings and shit, like, and I just didn't know how I was gonna do it, but like I knew I was gonna make it work, you know. And so I got it, and me and my girl, we moved our shit to the second floor, all of our shit. And I made sure that the first 6 months that I moved in here, I was going to focus all my time into making this whole first level, like, ready to get tattooed at, you know, like having the waiting room, the fucking everything, you know. And I gave myself that 6 month deadline for, and 6 months on the dot for, I swear on anything, dog, like, I was ready for, and I left here on the 6th month. I moved down to that luxury apartment down there. Like, it was like a block away, and it helped me manage the gallery so I could start fixing the second floor, you know? And I was just very, like, happy with myself that I was sticking to, like, the time that I was going to do, you know? Like, I worked really hard for it, and I just had a plan, and I was going to stick to it, and nothing was going to stop me, you know? I never felt that before, you know? So I don't know what it was, and I'm sure you know, when everyone's ready, whenever any in particular person is ready, they'll know when it's ready and they'll fucking do it. You feel me? Like, I don't know. Yeah, and it was very slow because in the first couple months that I was here, I was just here by myself. You know, me and my homeboy Brian, who's my apprentice at that time. And yeah, dude, it was really slow. It was nerve wracking, but I figured, bro, like, you know, I can make that like in a couple tattoos. Like, I just need to be like not spoiling myself everywhere. You know, I could just be a little more disciplined for a little bit, and it'll pay off. You know, and I, you know, and it did. Thank goodness. You know, I have a great team and shit, and like we're still figuring things out, moving things around and stuff. But it's been a blessing, dog. Honestly, I can't complain. And again, right, I never thought I'd be having a team like that, but I'm fucking super blessed to have a team like that pushes themselves. You know, like fucking 2 years tattooing, like a year tattooing, and like the shit that you do, right, in that amount of time, being around people that love what they do, like it just definitely like pushes you and like it evolves you crazy. And I've never seen that, you know, and I'm fucking glad I have a team like this. I don't want to be in a team like in a place like that where someone gets taken advantage of, or if they feel they're getting taken advantage of. You know, like I try to be as fair as I can with everyone here, as like transparent. You know, whether that comes to us splitting our like gloves and everything that we split in here. You know, I tell them too, like if they ever have a question about like the bills that we split, you know, to ask me, and that I'll have all the receipts there ready for them to see. Maybe I did the math wrong. I'm a human being, dog. I could fuck up, you know, like. And then so it's cool. It works out. And I think that's great. You know, like there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like if you lie too, bro, it's just too much over your head. You know, like you stress yourself out too much. Like you don't need all that shit. Like you don't need to do all that. Yeah, I don't know. It's a great question too. Fuck again, right? I feel like everything worked out really great with that. I have no idea because I remember before, if I ever did open up a studio, I wanted to call it the Gallows or something like that, just because I like all that like dark shit, you know. But when I moved in here, I don't know what it was. I have no idea what it was that made it me want to call it the Gallery. Me and my girl were going over a lot of different names and shit, and I don't know if like this has anything to do with it. It's probably like a made up memory that I'm just making up on the spot right now. But this street that we're on, this block, it's called Gallery Row. It's called Gallery Row. So I don't know if I seen that when we moved in here, and I saw that it said Gallery Row, you know. And then I'm like, we should call it the Gallery. And it all made sense when I did say the Gallery, because like I would love to have different styles of art and artists here, you know. And it worked out great. As soon as we started saying the Gallery, you know, I think it kind of just clicked that first time around. Fuck, I really don't know how we came up with it, but thank goodness we did, dog. I love that name. I think it's a great name, and I think it's very like, you know, a diverse name, because the Gallery, you know, there's everything in there, you know, like anything in there. I think it worked out great. I've been here now for 2 years now. 2 years going on. It'll be 3 years in October, but 2 years. 2 years. I do consider myself a shop owner, but I'm not like anyone's boss or anything like that. You know, definitely, I always tell them I'm not their boss, and I'm for sure not their boss, right? They make their own fucking schedule and shit, right? But there's definitely rules here. And again, right, like I'm learning as I go. This is my second year as a shop owner, but I'm not the boss of anyone, right? But with that, of course, there has to be rules implemented, and I'll do that as I go. I'll make them up as I go, just because there's just some shit that you won't know or think about as a rule until it fucking happens. And then you're like, all right, we're going to make this a rule now. But in the beginning, obviously, just simple rules, right? Like, obviously, cleanliness rules and stuff like that. Like, general rules and shit. Don't leave the door open. Like, don't get anybody all fucked up in here. And, you know, things that are, like, common sense rules, right? But as I go on and stuff, yeah, obviously, like, there'll be things that come up that'll make me make a rule on the spot, you know? And then we'll try to have meetings, like, group meetings and shit, and just try to talk about how things are going here, how if anyone has a suggestion for their own rules or how things should change, you know, just because like like I said again, dog, like I'm just a human being too, bro, and like this is my first time managing like a team like this, you know, and so I don't know maybe what they're thinking, like, you know, so you know, I like to hear their ideas too, and let me know if I'm doing something wrong too as a shop owner, dog, because like I don't know what I'm doing either. I'm just trying to make sure you guys have everything. If maybe sometimes I don't know, don't order something at a certain time, even though you guys have told me a lot. I don't know. Maybe we can figure something else about that, you know, just because, I don't know. I'm also tattooing just like you guys are. But anyway, nah, I don't, yeah. I'm definitely not like I'm not like I'm not definitely not a micromanager or anything, you know, but again, right, like I feel like I just like to be clean, right? And who doesn't, especially in an environment like this, you know? So I think cleanliness is like my most biggest thing here, you know. So if someone isn't being clean, yeah, I'll be like on that about it, you know, just because like again, we all pay like a lot of money to be here, and we want to tattoo comfortably, and we want our clients to get tattooed comfortably too. So if, you know, if one person starts like leaving crumbs somewhere, or, you know, leaving their shit somewhere like consistently, you know, it's not fair for the team. And that's usually where I try to, you know, like how I try to approach everyone is that it's not fair for everyone, you know, and that's it. Not just because I want you to do it or because I'm the fucking boss or something, but it's just not fair for everyone to like to be clean and you're not, or to do something and you're not doing it, you know? And that's the way I try to approach it. I don't know. I definitely don't try to like categorize myself in a style or anything like that. Because there's sometimes where I tattoo, even my black and grays are different sometimes, you know. Sometimes I'll tattoo in like a very super like I'll try to make it like very, very realistic, right? But there's sometimes too where I'm okay with that whole like Los Angeles kind of like West Side kind of like black and gray style, where it's not so much like smooth, but it's enough where you could tell it's Chicano art, you know, and you know, and but I don't know, I wouldn't classify myself as anything in particular, or that I would have a style, you know. I don't know. Definitely not anything like that. I do. Yeah, I do. I do color realism, traditional, black and gray, fine line, script, micro, like whatever you throw at me, I'll fucking run it. And I feel again, right, just like as like learning when I was 16 till now, you know, I didn't have anyone to teach me anything in particular, so I would just get whatever was thrown my way, you know. And with every time I kept doing that, you know, I would like tweak little things, and I would understand like why it didn't look so good the previous time, you know. And so now at this point, I feel like I can like fuck around with anything, and I'll make it look like really, really good, you know, like just, you know, and not really like, not to say like I'm fucking great or anything like that, but I'm saying like I feel like I would understand like what would make it pop, you know, like line weights, you know, thin lines and thick lines in certain areas, and just I don't know, other things like that. I feel, you know, and I feel like a lot of, you know, artists would understand that too. Fuck, I mean, I love anything horror related, you know, like the more gory, the more like scarier, the more like fucking blasphemous, the better. I don't get that shit a lot though, but I would love to do that a lot for sure. I just love that stuff. I love horror movies, like classic horrors and stuff. That'd be the shit, you know. If I could do that in color and black and gray, like all day, every day, bro, like I'd love that for sure. Just gory and like just brutal shit. That'd be the shit. That'd be dope. So I'm using a Bishop Rotary, a Packer. And before that, I was using a Cheyenne, the Thunder. No, fuck no, the Spirit and Thunder. But yeah, before that, it was a Cheyenne, and then now I'm using the Bishop Packer wand, and I love that shit. It's dope. It's my everyday. Yeah, it's the only one I use. I use that for everything: black and gray, color, fine line. I use it for everything. I know Rocky and stuff uses the shader. He has a shader and Packer, but I don't know. I feel like I'm just I get anxious like with that because it is soft, you know. I've used it before, but I need to build in my tones fast, you know, like and not that I'm like trying to rush my piece or anything like that, but I like to see my tones right away, and the shader's just a little too soft for me. But it's a dope machine. I am gonna try other machines. I definitely am gonna try other machines. I mean, there's this machine that I want to get. It's a Dan Cuban, and those are good for like lettering, like thick ass lines and shit like that. But if I do buy another rotary machine, it'll probably be the new Bishop wands, because I have the original one, the first one. So they have two new ones now that are a little lighter, and they have smaller batteries that last longer. So I'll probably be getting those after. But I'm still using my shit, you know, because I've only had it for not so long, and they're expensive. So, well, you know, just gonna use it out. I'm using Quadrant, and I'll still use Bishop needles here and there. But before that, I was using Cheyenne needles. But I always found those needles were always they were always very like defective, you know, and they're very, very expensive. And then it's hard to like get a hold of those guys, you know, because like they're like from Germany or some shit like that. And so if like your machine fucks up, you gotta send it to them and stuff, you know, like, and then you gotta wait for response and they lag or whatever the fuck. With Bishop too, bro, like it's cool because they're the homies too, bro. Like we'll see them at conventions, and if you have a problem with your machine, you know, like they'll take it in there right away, they'll check it out, and they'll ask you to come back like in 20 minutes. Like it's cool. That's fucking cool. Yeah, hell yeah, for sure. I'm using Big Sleep's ink. I'm using his Killer Bees Black. Rocky introduced me to that ink too. I love that ink. That's a great ink. It's a dark ass ink. It's good. It's really good. Yeah, I fuck with that ink. Um, the only person, there's been a lot of people there, like supporting me and stuff. Obviously, like everyone that gets tattooed by me and stuff, and continues to get tattooed by me, like just like showing my art and just talking about me. Like I appreciate all of them for sure. I'd love to thank them, but I wouldn't be here without my girl, dog. Honestly, like I said, fool, like that shit was a mad transition, fool, from like working and tattooing to just tattooing, and I would never be here without her, dog. So like I know none of this would be here. I would be what it is without her. So I definitely have her to thank a lot for holding it down. Like all those like extra hours she put into having 2 jobs and shit, dog. It's just not easy. And it did a lot for us. She did a lot for us, like to us and for us, thinking this, but it worked out great. But definitely, I just appreciate everyone supporting me and like everyone who continues to get tattooed by me. I appreciate everyone who continues to push me, right? Having all these people around me that do really great work, and it keeps me like in line to, not half-ass my shit and to continuously be better than myself, or be better than I was yesterday. But yeah, those would be the people that I'm appreciative for and who I think. All right, my name is Julius Cordero again. Thank you guys for watching. This is Blazted Network, and fucking tap in and hope to see you guys soon again.